Welcome back to another Tera Plays Tera video. Today's video we are going to go over Tera Console's 110.01 build update. Now, if you're watching this video as it release, this update will not be happening until October 5th, so it's about a week away. If you're watching this video in the far future, then I highly suggest, if it's far enough in the future, definitely check out the version 2 I'll do with the actual updates being in-game, as I do want to note that I've already read these patch notes, and I'm going to be honest, there are some fuzzy stuff that they don't go over directly, that it would just be easier to, of course, go over and look at things in the game. Within that, before we get into the exact patch notes, I do want to go over last week's video. It is the Tera console news video that I do every other week. I typically release on Tuesday every other week. And that is that a good friend of mine reached out to me and wanted to let me know about basically two things that I want to cover. And this friend is DZ. I want to give DZ a huge shout out and thank him for letting me know that on that video I guessed that we were getting the update October 5th. And I guessed this because that's when leaderboards end. September didn't get a patch at all, like a major update like this at all, as well as I completely forgot, but the Battle Pass season ends at the same time, and these are all key things I've been using to see that we're getting an update. Well, DZ wanted to point out that if you actually are in the Tera console Discord, and above all the channels and categories, you can see that there is an update message that will tell us when the next update is, and apparently that's been up there for much longer than the patch notes and much longer than I even realized. So a good thing to know by just seeing that is that devs are working and information can be out there, and it's more than even just guessing. So that's really cool, and I do want to say on my Tera console news videos, I will do my best to not only look at the Twitter, but pay a bit more focus on that section of the Discord so that it's not me guessing. I actually will have concrete ideas of when we are getting updates from what the developers suggest, besides just patch notes. Now, the next thing, which leads into the Twitter post, is that the developers have been posting, or customer support has been posting stuff on Twitter, and that's how I got a lot of the information in that video. Again, none of it was concrete, it's just, oh, they're posting stuff on the Twitter. And another thing DZ wanted to mention was the Kumas that I talked about in the video. And that big Kuma in the field, I thought either it could have been Kuma's Battle Royale being reworked. That's what some of the comments even suggested. I thought for myself, and knowing that the stuff that I've seen and run on some of the fan servers, is that there is a Kuma second boss in Timescape, and I thought maybe this is them telling us that we're secretly getting Timescape. DZ wanted to pitch in a third option, and that maybe that Kuma has something to do with leveling, or there's something else with it, because DZ was recently, a while back, leveling a character, and he said around level 40 something, he remembers not only seeing that exact Kuma, but he remembers seeing an area that looks very, very similar to the picture as a whole. So, again, kind of cool thing, but I'm going to be honest, this patch note doesn't have that Kuma. Believe it or not, they even posted a picture of RK9, and this patch notes has nothing to do with RK9 either. So the cool thing with that is the developers might be thinking more steps ahead than what we're used to them doing. So hopefully this means in the future we will be seeing some changes that involve that Kuma. We'll be expecting RK9 of some form, hopefully rampaging. We just kind of had Arcanine hard, so it'd be kind of fun to have rampaging back. But that's just some of the stuff I wanted to cover. Let's get into the actual patch notes and dive into what's coming to Tera. So the first thing is, we do have a tiny dungeon rotation, and the developers have finally brought us a new dungeon. Well, a revamped PC new dungeon for console. And that is that Catalepticon Hard, as I suggested in the previous video, is coming out. And thankfully it's coming out as a 475. So endgame players, we finally have something harder than 470 to try to accomplish. The other amazing thing with this is, since that's coming out as a 475, and the only other rotation is Ruinous Manor Hard, and Ruinous Manor is being removed for Darkreach Citadel Hard and Darkreach Citadel. That means Cursed AA, Catalepticon Normal, Gossamer's Vault Hard, and AQ, all of these dungeons that are 460 and above are staying in the game. And I'm really glad to see that stuff is getting exchanged, but we're not losing Cursed AA for Catalepticon Hard. I feel it's been finally well enough time that we have either have been two 470s or 470 and 475, and I think this is fantastic. I'm glad to see this. So within that, the dungeon rewards are being reorganized due to the difficulty, and I feel like that is for Darkreach Citadel, Normal, and Hard, because when these dungeons were in the game, they were like 437 or something and 448, or they were really nowhere near this item level. So it's good to know that they are already thinking ahead, changing the rewards. Red fragments will always be dropped on dungeons. Now, I don't know if this means red fragments will be Vanguard reward now, or maybe all dungeons are going to drop a more source of red fragments. And I think that's needed for people who need to craft their enhancement energy, because honestly, after seeing them in the current game, I feel they're just not really that useful. You can run a lot of Cursed AA and you can still hardly get any. And if you're someone who really does need energy, you could need these red fragments, but someone else in your group can get them, and they're such a low amount to what you need, you'll receive more energy by the time you get enough red fragments to even craft. Leaderboard is getting changed, and that is Catalepticon Hard is coming in, and it will be the leaderboard. Good chance it'll be leaderboard along with Cursed AA, but again, they don't put that exactly. We'll see when it happens. Leaderboard reward for first place, you'll get 2 reward named titles. Delusional Ruler, increased damages by 2%, increased attack speed by 1.5%, and then additional Delusional Ruler increases endurance by 10, increases attack speed by 1.5%. So I don't know how this whole 2 title thing works, but it seems like you might get to start picking what stats you want. So DPS and tanks may want extra damage, where healers would want an extra 10 endurance. This is kind of cool, making the title actually worthwhile for everyone in the group to want to hunt down and try to get first place. For second and third place, it will be increased damage by 2%, but the attack speed will be 1%. Endurance is 8 instead of 10, as well as attack speed is 1%. Next, we have feats, and that is Catalepticon does have a feat called Delusion Challenger, being that once you defeat Lumica 77 times, it's just a 77 clear feat being added in. And it's probably going to be for hard mode, because that's typically what they always are. Battle Pass. As I mentioned earlier, the Battle Pass is ending and we are getting Season 10. It will go from 10 or October 5th all the way up to December 13th. Here are the main rewards. We'll get some cosmetics, some weapon skins, some mounts. The one mount here has 3 different versions. And of course, level 100, a legendary Stigma crate. If you want to see any of the Battle Pass more precisely, feel free to pause and read through. But for the most part, the Battle Pass is not changing any more different. Besides the Battle Pass missions, they are removing the fishing one. Dungeons will give more XP. The rewards are basically all the same from what I can see as every time, except for you will guarantee get a bracelet and a power source. I believe this past season was that way as well. And instead of getting I believe this past Battle Pass season gave you a brilliant T4 etching. This one is giving you a weekly T6 etching. So if you get the Battle Pass, you'll get you'll get the face etching tier 6, but again, this isn't the brilliant, so it's not a permanent. Again, I could be slightly off. Maybe this past Battle Pass season does give all the exact same, but I thought it gave brilliant T4s again, feel free to pause and read through. Alright, so this next section that we're going to go over is the whole rework to pets. Now bear with me, I'm going to do my best to try and explain everything I can about how this is working. And I'm just going to be honest, it's a little weird. I have an idea from what PCs was. And honestly, again, some things are just not going to be clear, I think, until this update happens in the game. So to start off with, the pet system's getting completely reworked and improved, apparently. Pets will have different skills now. And all pets will have passive skills depending on their grade. All pets can be upgraded by training and they can reach maximum legendary grade. So you don't have to worry about that. You may have a pet that can't hit legendary. Apparently, from the way it's worded, everything can be trained to hit legendary. We'll go over it in a bit. Legendary pets will have the Transcendence passive skill, which is a special ability. And at that point, pets' secondary skills will be maintained. The way that promoting your pet works is that if you have a normal pet, you'll have 10% chance of getting it to an uncommon. Uncommons will have 1% chance to go into rare, and rare have a 0.1% chance going to legendary. So now what this means is basically if you have a normal pet, by doing whatever this training system, whatever training means for the developers, you'll have 10% chance to get uncommon. Alright, so now let's go over why you want to upgrade your pets and stuff. Well, that's because as you upgrade, the number of passive skills is increased. Normal pets get 1, uncommon 2, rare get 3. None of those gets the Transcendence passive special unique skill. Only a legendary pet will have 3 passives and then there's Transcendence passive skill. So the point of getting a legendary is for that Transcendence passive, and I'll go over what my thoughts on that are after we keep going through the rest of the notes. So there is a description here saying pet training. All pets can be used training and using the training books. You can change your pet's passive skill using the training book and gold. And you can choose between the passives you currently have and the passives created through training. So, alright, let's take a minute here and talk about what all this could mean so far. I'm going to be honest, I don't know what they mean by training. Now, there was adventures that pets on PC I think could go on, and you would send them on an adventure and they would come back with resources. I don't know if we're getting some kind of adventure thing for our pets, that they have a 10% chance to come back getting upgraded, or if it's going to be run content to get these training pages or training books or whatever, or if it's going to be, unfortunately, a pay-to-win system where buy a pet, dismantle a pet, take the dismantled training thing to put into your pet and hope that it upgrades. I can see it being any of that stuff. Now, the passive skills from PC that I remember are things that you may want specific ones, but they're probably not going to be what most people are looking for. And passive stuff might be stuff like you'll get to gather plants faster, the pet might just have auto gathering where it automatically picks up whatever resource it goes on top, or it could even be stuff like you get more flight gauge, or your flight duration is reduced, you get to stay in the air longer on mounts. That to me sounds like what the passives all could be, while the transcendence skill is going to be something similar to what PC had, which was they got damage or they got power. And if I recall, when PC got pets at that point, the first set I think came out with they got X amount of power depending on the level of the pet, and there was a whole weird thing where you have to give it X amount of fellowship to make the friendship or fellowship higher. And again, if I recall, I did a whole guide on Menmas that it was easier to do on Menmas on retail, because retail is a whole pay-to-win system that you had to keep buying pets to upgrade multiple pets to make a max pet. I am hoping it's not that convoluted. I'm hoping we can farm this, but we won't really understand what all this training and training book stuff means, what all the passive skill and what that transcendent skill actually means, until the actual update and people receive these things. Now again, as I mentioned, the transcendent skill could be power. I know on PC they had physical and magical amplification along with physical and magical crit damage, and pets I believe on PC eventually started giving players these physical and magical buffs. Now, the one thing cool about the pets on PC that I do want to mention here is that on PC, when you use your pet skill, it's similar to your brooch, that it will have a 3-minute cooldown, but the skill lasts for 4 minutes, or maybe it'll last for 3 minutes and be exact, but if you die, you lose it. So if we get something similar to that with power, that's kind of a cool system that incents people to, hey, you have a pet that gives you this damage, use the pet and don't die, and if your fight's taken longer, you can recast the skill. So I am curious to see what exactly all this means. So that's just my thoughts. There is a bit more we'll get into the pets, and that's the etc. stuff now. That'll maybe clear up some other stuff for anyone who's wondering. And that is that the pet section under like your tabs is getting removed, and it'll be under character pets. All existing pet skills will be removed and new ones will be sent to you by the mail. So anyone who has like 20 different pets, you are going to want to check your parcel post to get all the pets or all your pets back Do know the pets acquired through achievements are going to be sent as a normal grade pet. Any pets purchased or obtained through events are given an uncommon grade. And if you have any time limited pet skills, all that time of the update, it will be the change to a training book page required for exchanging an high training book. Again, this adds even more questions on what the difference of a training book page versus training book versus high training book. There's a lot that's going into this that's just very until we see it. But don't worry too much if you do like your pets. They will be given back. I hate to say it though, if you really like your little ghost boo, you might not be getting a ghost boo back. Because again, they don't really say in here what these normal and uncommon grade pets are really going to be. Do understand time limited pets can no longer be used, and time limited pets will be sold for 100 gold. Pets will no longer consume energy, so as of right now, if you have a pet that's a looting pet, you'll notice after it loot so many hours that it won't loot unless you feed it a pet treat. That whole system is getting removed. And then there will be a pet system guide. It's a guide on how to use the pet system will be uploaded. I've checked the website. I've looked. It's not there. So I don't know if that's something that'll be posted the day of the update. Maybe between releasing of this video and the update, it will be updated. As soon as I have the information, I will do my best to release it to you. But that's the pet system. It's a lot. It's very confusing to me. I have ideas from PC, but again, we won't know what console version is doing until release on most of this. It's safe to assume that a lot of players that already have pets, you will be getting pets obviously back. It's safe to assume getting a rare pet seems fairly doable, but it looks like you'll need a legendary pet to really supply any real crazy buff. Again, we don't know what the passives are. I don't know what the transcendent skill is. None of that stuff is released here, and we'll have to wait to see. And again, like I said, with leveling, we'll have to wait to see on how that works. PC retail was a ton of horrible pay to win grind, and it's just, we have to see. So the next thing we'll go into is, I apologize about that. The next thing we'll go into is the class adjustments. And the classes that will be having their skills adjusted, the first one is Brawler, Roundhouse Kick, Glyph of Power Link. The duration of this is going from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. For Dashing Strike, the Glyph of Power Link will be increased skill damage to Haymaker, Pile Driver, 1-inch punch. It was 25% for 5 seconds. After a successful hit, it is going up to 35% damage. It also will increase the casting speed of the skill. I believe the tooltip has always said it's meant to do that, and it just never did. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's Dashing Strike. Self-Control, the passive, to increase the skill damage from 8% all the way up to increased damage by 20%. And then Jackhammer Acceleration increases its effect duration from 2 seconds to 5 seconds. So that is the Brawler changes. Next we'll go into Sorcerer. Frost Sphere, they've increased the skill damage by 15%. Glyph of Carving, they've increased the chance to crit 1.5 times on attacking monsters, increased the chance to crit 2 times on attacking monsters. Arcane Pulse, they've increased the skill damage by 15%. Lightning Strike is getting increased skill damage by 15%. And then Glyph of Persisting Lightning Strike is going from 40% to 50% possible chance of eliminating cooldown. Hailstorm, they've increased the skill damage by 20%. And for the Glyph of Keen Nova, it was 2.5 times for 5 seconds. They're now increasing the chance to crit by 3 times on attacking a monster. Meteor Strike is getting an additional 20% damage. Void Pulse is getting increased 20% damage, while the Glyph of Carving Void Pulse, instead of 2 times crit, will be 3 times crit. Mana Boost, they're increasing the skill damage from 20 to 30%, and for the Glyph of Haste, when casted, speed charging by 10% for 20 seconds will now be 20% for 20 seconds. And as for Ice Lance, Fusion, and Implosion, they're all getting an additional, or they're being increased skilled damage by 30%. Valkyrie, your Leaping Slash will be increased damage by 15%. Glaive Strike, increased damage by 15%. Ground Bash and Shining Crescent are both getting increased damage by 20%. For Shining Crescent, the new Moonlight, that will now restore plus 60 Moonlight if both attacks succeed. Twilight Waltz is getting a 20% increased damage. Gunger's Bite is getting an increased damage by 30%, as well as its increased effect duration from 4 to 6 seconds, and it will restore 15 Moonlight when successful. Oh no, my bad, I apologize. It restores 15, it will now restore 30 Moonlight when successful. And God's Fall, Bloodflower, the effect increase of your 2% damage that everyone gets like 2% damage, this is Valk's Endurance Shred thingy, will be increased to 4% damage. Ninjas! Hey ninjas, I have an amazing thing for you guys. You guys are actually getting a PvP, buff this time. No increased damage of PvP ninjas. They're well, I guess it's also PvP. It's overall damage this time, not just solely PvP. Alright, so enough with the jokes. Ninja, your double cut is getting increased by 15%. Skyfall increased by 15%. Fire Avalanche increased by 20%. Circle of Steel is getting increased by 30%, and the Glyph of Carving, instead of being 1.3, is going to be 2. Quick Attack is getting an increased skill damage by 30%. Burning Heart is getting 30% damage increase. Switch Tactic, hits increase the power of melee skills by 10%, is now going to increase the melee skills of 15%, while ranged attacks crit chance was 30, ranged attacks crit chance increase will now be 40%. And as for your focus, you will get max stacks instead of 2, you'll get 3, and they're increasing the skill damage from 10 to 15%. So that is all of the class changes. Next, we'll go into just item, etc. stuff and bug fixes. And this being that anyone who was using Bamorama boxes for Lean Star Groupiers can no longer do that. You will only get the Freeholds Groupiers. So, I highly suggest anyone who spams Bamorama boxes, don't buy any more, or make sure whatever you buy before the update, open them. Alright, let's get into the extra improvements. The Kaya's Brooch. We've all loved the animation, right? The wings are so pretty. Yeah, thank you devs. You're giving us a better display. The Kaya's Brooch skill active effect display has been kind of bland. Hopefully they're giving us something cooler, because that was kind of a letdown. And I'm hoping I'm reading it the way I meant to and explaining it the right way, is that hopefully we're actually getting a cool, display on our characters, not like a display in the buff bar or some shit. So, the inspect function has been kind of wonky for people apparently, so they've changed the stigma locations, And they've also changed the location of the soma and brachium. So when switching stigma information, a list of stigma options will be displayed. Again, not exactly sure what is exactly getting changed, but that's something to look forward to when inspecting your friends. See it. I guess they're improving it to be more fluent. When enchanting a legendary stigma, you can now see the defense enhancement value. So before, if you had a superior stigma or legendary stigma going from like +1 to +2, you didn't see the defense enhancement that you would get until the enchant went through. Now that would be displayed as proper. You can change the damage font transparency and damage font size. You can do this by going into System, Option, and Display. When you clear Gilliglade, you can now have a free banker. So one thing is, people were having to do Gilliglade, come out, now there will be a banker inside of Gilliglade after clearing it to put away all your goodies. And Lean Stark Rupiers, as I mentioned, they will not be in Bamorama boxes, but you can buy them from the specialty store for 160 gold and 50 silver. So, don't know if there will be a limit, don't know if it's unlimited, but you'll be able to still get Rupiers without crafting and the trade broker. And the last thing is there's just one final bug fix. And they fixed an issue with the sound was outputting an overlay lapping twice effect when opening up boxes. That has been fixed. So that is all the changes that are coming to Tera console. A lot of stuff that I'm really excited about. These class buffs look really OP. Especially for anyone who really likes these classes. I've already spoke to quite a few people who haven't been playing for a while, and they're excited to come back, and especially like Sorks are excited to come back because they haven't been touched for so long. I know some Valkyries are pretty excited because they also haven't been buffed. Ninjas, like everyone who plays these classes are excited, and I'm happy that these classes that haven't really received much are getting stuff. I will say Brawler scares me as a war tank a little. That's a pretty massive buff for a tank. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe it's not as massive as I think. The pet system seems pretty cool. I'm just worried it's a pay-to-win system. I know DZ is also worried about that. Me and him were talking a lot about this, and hopefully it's not, but we'll see. It also depends on how OP this Transcendence skill and these passives are. And then the last thing is, yeah, Battle Pass in the new dungeon. Also, we don't know what the new dungeon's offering for rewards. So I will, as soon as the update happens, that will be one of the first things I will cover, is what actually drops from Lumica's Hard, or Catalepticon Hard. I apologize, Lumica is the boss. Because I am very curious to see if it's just more materials than Cursed AA, or maybe there's a new piece of gear or something special in there that they're leaving out of these patch notes for us to experience when it happens. So, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed. If you have, go ahead and hit that like button. If there's something on this list maybe I've helped explain, or maybe you got some questions and you want to ask and I can try to explain. The other thing is, maybe I got something wrong. Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you keep coming back and you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing, as I would greatly appreciate it and it would help me out tremendously. That's about it. Hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you in Aboria, gamers.